Welcome everyone. Good evening. I'm so happy to see all of you here. I can tell already this is going to be an exciting adventure. We have all sorts of different personalities out there already, and it's going to be fun. I can tell. What I'd like to do is start with a word of prayer, and then we'll kind of jump into an introduction and answer all of your questions, or at least a few of them anyway. All right, let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for your goodness to us. We thank you that we have this opportunity to come together to consider our bodies that you have designed and that you've blessed us with life. And we're here to seek greater health and to come into harmony with your plan and your design for our lives. So I pray that you'll be with us this evening, that each person here, Lord, you know why they came, what they're seeking. I pray that you would bless them beyond their greatest expectations. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. All right, so I am Dr. Hess. My first name is Michael, but I used to go by Mike. Dr. Hess, Pastor Hess. A lot of people call me Daddy. I don't expect any of you to do that. I had some people say, like, oh, I don't know what to call you. Do I call you pastor or doctor? I had a patient one time that called me father. She was Portuguese Catholic and she knew I was a pastor. And so in her mind, I was the father. And I'm like, no, I'm not your father. But anyway, so my short version of my story is I grew up in Northern California. My dad was a Seventh-day Adventist pastor and did a lot of health programs. So I grew up, I remember when I was probably 5 years old, helping to hand out brochures and do things, hand out the little buttons for the Stop Smoking program. Some of you probably remember that program, and watching those videos of the gross, disgusting stuff that happens in your lungs when you smoke and all that. And so I've always, from those early days, been involved in health and church and so forth. I didn't want to be a pastor though. I went to school to be a millionaire, but God said, hey, I do have work for you to do. And so I decided to be a pastor. I went to seminary. While I was in seminary, I was convicted that God wanted me to combine pastoral ministry and medicine, medical ministry work. So from Andrews University, I finished seminary. I went to Loma Linda for medical school. I graduated in the class of 2000. I did a residency, 3-year residency in family medicine. And then from 2003 up until 2 years ago, I was in Northern California where I was a pastor and a physician, working in various venues, doing medicine. And this particular program came about out of my private practice. I had a lot of patients struggling with things like losing weight, getting their blood sugars under control, their blood pressure, anxiety, lots of other things. And so I would spend time with them, but you know, it takes a lot of time to do some really deep education and helping people with lifestyle change. And it gets kind of expensive to do that one-on-one with people. So this program, basically, you're going to end up with about 40 hours of my time. So if you were paying out of pocket for 40 hours of your personal doctor's time, what would that cost you? I think a lot more than what you're paying for this program. And not only is that with me, but we have lots of other helpers here. So we have a team, but the program is something that I put together for my patients, and I invited them to come and join me in the evenings, because most of them were working people and couldn't take time to go someplace like Weimar or something for a New Start program, which is a fabulous program. And if you have the $6,000 or $7,000 or $8,000 that it costs, and you can take 2 weeks off work and go do that, it's wonderful. But a lot of people can't do that. And so that's why I designed this program, to really focus on metabolic change and to do it in a way that is workable for most people. So this program is about lifestyle change. It's not a secret hack. There's no like one secret herbal formula that I'm going to give you that's going to cure all your problems. There's no quick fix, although it's surprising how fast the program can work for people that will implement all of the parts. And I've seen some really dramatic things, people literally having to get off their diabetic medication in 3 or 4 days. I'm not promising that will happen for any of you, but I've seen it happen. And some people, remember one of the early programs that I did, a lady came into the program who was in her mid-60s, I think, and she was a little bit overweight. She was type 2 diabetic. She was on insulin, and just kind of was like an old lady, you know. And I don't mean that by numbers wise. It was just how she felt and how she was living her life. But she had just gotten custody of her 9-year-old granddaughter, and she said, "Doc, I got to do something different. I can't keep up with her. I can't even play with her in the yard. All I can do is sit and watch her. And I got to be taking care of her for the next, however many years, 15, 20 years, something like that, however long, but for a while." And it was such a exciting thing for me, so gratifying. At the end of that program, that lady, she went from not even being able to do one real push-up to being able to do 10 push-ups. She told me that her life was changed because she could play tag with her granddaughter now and actually enjoy it. And her endocrinologist had cut all of her diabetic medicines less than half and told her, "I don't know what you're doing in that program, but keep doing whatever it is." And so it totally transformed her life from that point on. And so that's why I do this program, is things like that, to transform people's lives. Some of you may have really dramatic, big problems you're dealing with. Some of you, they may not be that dramatic, but what I want to challenge you with is that the program is put together for a purpose, and take advantage of it. You're here, like, let's do all the things, really put yourself into it, and you'll be surprised at how your life will be transformed for the better. So if you're looking for a quick fix and easy, something like a pill to take and some sort of magic formula, don't waste your time, you just don't bother coming back. But if you are looking for something better and you're willing to put forth the effort for something that actually works, and that's the thing, a lot of times people put forth effort on things that don't really work. But the principles that are built into this program actually work when the people put in the time and the effort to work the system. So I've seen it over and over again, and so I'm glad that you're here, and I'm looking forward to what's going to happen in the next 3 months as we journey together and beyond. Right? It doesn't have to stop in 3 months. Laurel is a graduate of the program. She can testify that the benefits continue on and on, right? As long as you keep on keeping on. So everybody should have gotten one of these, and inside you're going to have the first handout. This is the orientation session, and there's a schedule for all of the sessions. I don't anticipate any changes at this point in time, but sometimes things get a little chaotic. We might have to change something. We're going to try really hard to stick with this schedule regardless of what happens. So if I have to be away, I'll get somebody to fill in for me, and I will probably have a couple of guest speakers here helping out, and then so it's a team effort. We're going to try to stick to this schedule so you have it there in front of you. You know kind of how to plan, and each one of these sessions this evening is very different from all the other sessions. So the next time when you come on Sunday morning the 22nd, come ready to exercise, because that's how we're going to start. We're going to start with, and it's not going to be super strenuous, okay? We'll start out very gentle and easy, but by the end of the program, we're going to be going pretty hard, like actually doing vigorous workouts. Okay, but we'll take it step by step and build up as we go along. But each time we're going to exercise. Most all of the times we'll feed you. We probably won't feed you actually Wednesday night, the 25th, because it's going to be a little late because we pushed the program to 7:30, so it's after prayer meeting, and that's really getting kind of late for eating dinner. So we probably won't feed you then. But the rest of the times we'll feed you. We'll exercise every time. We'll have a lecture component every time, and then we'll have a kind of a small group breakout session. So typically with a group this size, we'll probably have about 3 groups where you can get together in a little smaller group and talk about what's happening, share what's working, what's not working, and there's a whole progression of things for you to share, and there'll be a group leader that will facilitate the discussion. And that actually is a very important piece of it as well. Any questions so far about the general format or the general schedule? Yes, Amanda. Thank you all for wearing name tags. It helps me. I do have a list of your names, but I need to put your name next to your face probably several times before I get it logged in. So thank you. Yes?
About how long are the sessions?
So most of the sessions will be approximately 2 hours. So usually we exercise. The whole exercise part takes about half an hour, and then we serve the food, and then the lecture, and you can finish eating while the person's finishing the lecture. And so that's going to take about an hour, hour and a half, maybe. Some of them are slightly longer than others. And then we do go into the breakout sessions, and then that's just up to your group. So if your group is really chatty and you guys just enjoy talking, it could go a little longer. But if your group just gets down to business and gets things wrapped up, then you can leave when that's done. So it's not exactly the same for everybody, but it's a ballpark about 2 hours. Wouldn't you say that's pretty typical most of the time? Yep. Any other questions on schedule or general things like that? No. Okay. What you'll notice, let's see, I'll just go through the handout that you have there. Checklist for things. I'll go into a lot more detail on this, but I just want to go through the checklist real quick. There's a pre-program assessment on the next page. We'll get into that in a minute. There's a few apps that are free that we'll ask you to install on your phone. If you need help with that, we have an IT administrator and some other tech-savvy young people back here. Like, what apps are you talking about? But we can help you put those apps on your phone and help you with figuring out how to use them. Consider purchasing an activity tracker if you don't have one already. How many of you have already some sort of activity tracker device that you use? So up here we have 4, 5.
For steps.
For steps, yeah, that counts. So a little more than half of you. Excuse me. It's not absolutely required, but they really are very helpful. So if you have something like that, plan on using it. If you don't have something like that, seriously consider investing in something. They do have now. Dr. Kelly was showing off one that he bought just recently for, I think, $50 that not only tracks your activity, but it tracks your blood pressure and your blood sugar, which I thought was pretty amazing. Now, those are not FDA-approved glucose monitoring devices, but they give you a pretty good general idea, and they might be worth looking into. The Fitbits are very common and not super expensive. Garmin, I prefer Garmin. They're quite a bit more expensive, but they're generally more robust and more accurate. So that's something to consider, and you would make use of that, but you don't necessarily have to have one. But yeah, the Garmin devices are nice. figure they're good enough for flying airplanes. They might be good enough for GPS for me. So anyway, so think about that. Have the discussion. I put that in quotes because some of you know the discussion I'm talking about. We'll get to that in a couple of minutes. And then this is important. If you are taking medications for lifestyle-related diseases, specifically diabetes, most importantly, but also high cholesterol, or not cholesterol, I mean that will change too, but high blood pressure. So medicine for blood sugar or blood pressure, we're going to have to monitor carefully because those doses may need to change pretty early on in the program. So what I'm going to ask you to do, if you are taking those medications, I would like you to let me know about it. Now, I am a medical doctor, but this program is not medical care. So I'm not taking over your medical care from whoever your doctor is, but I would like to know so that we could just be aware and have some discussions. And really what I would like is if you, we're going to ask you to go, everyone, hopefully, to your own medical provider before the 22nd and get the labs that are listed here. So if you can do that, and while you're there, let them know that you're in this program and sign a release of information so that your doctor is allowed to talk to me. So that way, you know, if you're taking some medication, then I can talk with your doctor about weaning strategies for how, or how we're going to monitor things and things like that. Does that make sense? So, so we do recommend that. The reason, one thing about diabetic medications, if you're diabetic, you probably know this already, but one of the dangers is if your blood sugar goes too low. And if it goes too low, that can have immediate serious consequences. If it goes too high, that also has serious consequences, but usually it's not quite as immediate. And so we can be a little less aggressive about, you know, if things go high. So I usually suggest that we err on the side of reducing medicine a little bit, but that's a conversation you really need to have with whoever's prescribing the medication for you. Any questions about that? Yes?
Just want to make sure that if they had labs maybe during the last 3 months, if that would be okay, because you just want to say orders from the London.
Right, right. So if you've had blood tests, all of these things recently, you don't, like if you had them done 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, you don't have to redo them. We're gonna, that's good enough. We're not actually doing clinical research with this. It's just for your information so you can see how you're progressing, and it also helps me to know as well. So I like to get that feedback, but it's not like it has to be at a certain date. So, you know, if it was more than 3 months ago, it's probably time to get those repeated anyway. And so, yes, Mark.
Oh, you answered the question.
I did. Okay, excellent. So, the next meeting, let me talk a little bit about the next meeting. So it's going to be on a Sunday morning at 8 o'clock. There's some people, that seems awful early to get up out of bed. And for some people, waiting till 8 o'clock to eat breakfast is like you're going to starve to death. Okay? So I realize that there's no single time that's going to make everybody happy, and it's just not. So Sunday mornings we're going to meet at 8 o'clock. In the evenings we'll meet in the evenings. So it's, and I know everybody has different work schedules and all that, but for the most part by 6 o'clock, 6:30, whatever, what time did I put on here? I put 6 p.m. for most of the evening meetings, 8 a.m. in the morning. So for next time, right now we're not asking you to change anything that you're doing other than to start monitoring. So when we get to the app section, we're going to want you to install the app, start tracking the food that you're eating, but I'm not asking you to change anything this week or next week. We just want to get a baseline of what you're already doing. Okay, does that make sense? So I'm not asking you to start an exercise program yet, or start any special diet, or do anything different other than just start tracking what you're already doing. That gives us a baseline, and that will be very useful when we get to actually changing things, so that we know what that baseline is, and then we can adjust things as we go along. So for the next week, no major changes as far as what you're eating or your exercise, anything like that. We do want you to start tracking. When we get to Saturday, the day before, I'm going to ask you to fast for 24 hours. So our next meeting, our kickoff, first grand day of the program, September 22, on a Sunday. So on the 21st, on Saturday, I'm asking you not to eat food. Drink water throughout the day. And again, if you are diabetic, have a conversation with your provider before you do the fast, because we don't want you falling over dead because your blood sugar bonked and that was the end of you. That's not the point of the program. So there are ways to adjust the medication so that it's safe to fast, even if you are diabetic. If you're not diabetic, it's just a matter of you might be hungry, and it's okay to be hungry. So
you won't die in a day. You won't die in a day.
You won't die in a day, unless you have some weird medical thing. But like most people, a day of fasting is actually a good thing to do once in a while. I don't do it very often, but it's a good thing. I fasted the other day for a little while.
What if you have medication that needs to be taken with food?
So that's a good question for your provider. I'd be happy to answer more specifically if you want to talk afterwards.
Sure.
Most medications, some medicines are totally fine if you skip a day of medicine. Some medicines actually, they don't have to be taken with food. You can take it with a few sips of water. If you really have to take it with food and you really, really need to do that, then whatever minimal food you need to eat for that medicine.
Okay.
But as much as we can. So what I'm asking is I'm telling you, hey, this is the program, and the more of the program you do, the better your results will be. Now, if you can't do this piece or that piece for some reason, that's your call, and it's good to ask that question and discuss it. But if you have to, eat a bit of applesauce with your medicine or something like that, the program's still going to be great. A great benefit. So water fast, 24 hours. On Sunday when we get here, we're going to start with exercise, but I know you're going to be hungry. I will be hungry because I'm actually going to fast. Okay, I think the last couple of times I didn't do it with the group, but I decided this year I'm going to do all the things with you guys, okay? So I will fast on that Saturday, Sabbath, and then Sunday morning when we get here for the exercise, I'll be very hungry. And it's going to be very light exercise for the first day. And then we'll have breakfast here, which will start you on the smoothie diet. So you're going to be on 100% fruits and vegetables for 3 days. And there's a couple of reasons for this. So one reason is it gives you a jump start on metabolic change, reducing insulin resistance, weight loss, all of that stuff. The other thing is, for most people, there's some sort of unhealthy eating habits, and by doing a fast and then the smoothie diet, it totally disrupts your normal eating patterns. And then after 4 days of that kind of stuff, when you sit down to eat a regular meal, it's a different experience, and it's an opportunity to kind of reset your relationship with food in a healthier way. Okay? So that's some of the logic behind it. And so are there any other questions about the fast in particular? No questions. Okay. So then, Let me go over this pre-program assessment. After I'm done talking, we'll have a chance for everybody. We have scales back here that actually measures percent body fat and some other things as well. So that will help you to fill in this here. We have some cloth tape measures there and some people that will help to measure you. And you don't have to do any of this, all right? So none of this is like, nobody's forcing you to do this, right? Was there anybody that was forced to come here? Like, I've had people that have been dragged in kicking and screaming before, but it's still not being forced to. Like, you know, if you're here, you're here. So you don't have to do any of this, but it's helpful to measure things. And I'm not gonna ask you to measure all this stuff every day the rest of your life, but for this program, for your own sense of measuring your progress and seeing how things are coming along, it's helpful. So physical body measurements, then the lab measurements. So if you've had those done recently, you can access those or whatever, get the results. If you maybe can print them out from your chart or something, attach those in here. We would like to get a copy of that. That'd be great. And then down here we have some actual, take pictures. Okay, so for whatever level of modesty you deem appropriate for yourself, we're not going to be asking you to hand those to me and we're plastering them everywhere. Although if you want to, you know, take some appropriately modest pictures, if you think you ever might want to show those off someday, you're welcome to do that. But anyways, again, it's kind of a fun thing to measure your progress over time. Because sometimes when you just look in the mirror every day, you don't notice the difference. And if you can look back and say, well, 30 days ago I looked like that, and now I look like this. It's like, oh, that's a difference. And then physical fitness. So there's all sorts of ways to measure physical fitness, and I just chose a few. These are not necessarily the only ones, but they're the ones that I chose. So how many push-ups, pull-ups, push-ups, body weight squats can you do? So does everybody know what a pull-up is? Right? You grab a bar up over your head, you pull yourself all the way up so that your chin comes above the bar, and you let yourself down. Push-ups on the ground, toes on your hands, lower yourself all the way down to the floor, and then all the way until your arms are straight. Right?
Now, are you talking with the pull-up? I've heard different things. Like, there's some people call military. Are you talking about full arm extension or half arm?
Yeah, full arm extension, okay. 100% proper form, right? Because we're measuring something. Now it's different maybe if we're in the middle of a workout and we're trying to like move our body a lot, then maybe it doesn't matter as much if it's more about getting the aerobic activity. But for the purpose of measuring your strength, and this pull-ups, not only do they measure strength, but they also specifically measure strength to weight ratio. Okay, so there's a lot of people that have not done a pull-up since at least high school. Okay, and some people have never been able to do a pull-up, although I think that's, for the most case, those people are just misguided because they've never been coached on how to do a pull-up. But the reality is that most adults in the United States don't do pull-ups, and so they lose the ability, especially as they gain weight and lose strength. And so if you can't do one, just put 0, and that's okay. That's okay. There's no shame in that. It's just, if that's where you are, that's where you are. You know, if it's 1 or 2 or 20, whatever it is. It's not a competition with other people. What the competition is with yourself of, next week, can you be better than you were this week? And next month, and next year, right? Yes, Vicki?
Do you have a pull-up bar anywhere here?
We don't have one here in the building. That's a significant oversight that I need to fix. I think we can do that. We have some money in the budget, so I'm going to figure that out.
Say the door jam.
Showers.
The door jam.
Yeah, there are some good ones.
Upstairs.
There are some good ones that could go in door jams. All the doors here are wide doors. They're not standard.
Yeah, no, but the
But-
one upstairs where the doors separate between the lobby.
Oh, yeah, you could.
It feels.
You could do a pull-up there, maybe. Anyway, so currently we're not set up for doing pull-ups here, but maybe before the end of the program we will be.
There you go.
Body weight squats. By squats I mean a movement in which you're standing, you go down, and you come back up. So down all the way down, all the way back up. Your time for a 1 mile run or walk, okay? If you have not run for a long time, don't try it, this week or next week. Just don't. Like if you know, some of you walk already, and you can walk a mile. So just go walk a mile and mark down what's your time, okay? And if you jog sometimes or whatever, try a mile, like go ahead, do that. But I'm not asking you to knock yourself out and injure yourself for this. This is the beginning assessment. So if we were going to try to scam the system at all, we'd try to look worse at the beginning and better at the end to make us look like the most improved. I'm not suggesting that you fudge the numbers, but I'm just saying don't hurt yourself to try to make yourself look good at the beginning.
Don't overexert yourself.
Don't overexert yourself. How long can you balance on one foot with your eyes closed? Okay, it's a little bit of a challenge, right? So again, do that in a safe way. So some of you might need to be standing inside of your walker with your hands right on it, not touching it, but right close to it, or close to a table or a wall or something. Okay, so be safe, but try it. And if it's zero, if as soon as you close your eyes you fall over, then it's zero. L-sit is sitting. Demonstrate that. I don't know if you might need to adjust the camera. I'm going to sit down. So an L-sit is where you sit, support your body weight on your hands, and your body makes an L shape. You want me to move a little bit? Why don't we do this? I will grab a chair. Okay. So the idea is that you put your legs out straight and you hold yourself up off of the chair. How long can you hold that? So if you can't even get to that position, it's zero. Maybe you can hold it for 1 second or 2 seconds or 10 or whatever it is, okay?
Demonstrate a V-sit. I said, could you demonstrate a V-sit?
A V-sit. Not at the moment. I will later when we get to that lecture. We're going to actually talk about the form and all of that. The last one is a sit and reach score, which is a measure of flexibility. So you sit down, you're going to have, we can set it up for you here, but the idea is with your legs straight, your toes up, can you reach with both hands and both legs? Can you reach past your toes? And so the score is in inches, negative or positive if it's past your toes. No, for this one you sit flat on the ground. We'll show you later. After the end, we'll set it up here and help you measure it or show you how to measure it, okay? So we'll come back to that after I'm done talking and we're doing the measurements and stuff for anybody that wants help with that. Okay? So that's the assessment. Now, the discussion. Here's the thing about the discussion. Some of you know you've done things before, you've tried programs, you've spent money, and your spouse or your friends have said, not another one of those things. You're just going to waste more time and money. You know what I'm talking about? Sometimes it's sad, but that's the reality for a lot of people because maybe you have tried a lot of things and maybe you have failed in some of the things. And this program is, I guarantee this program is different than anything else that you've done, unless you've done this program before, which none of you sitting in the front row have done this program before. You went through the immersion program So there's going to be a lot of overlap there. But what I want you to do is still try to enlist the support of the people that are closest to you. So there's actually been studies done on this for health behavior change. If you have one person that's encouraging and supporting, it increases your chance of success by 61%. And if you have more than one person, so 2 or more people, it increases your chance of success by more than 100%. That's pretty significant.
Yeah.
You know, if there was any one intervention that would do that, and we could put that in a pill, like I would be a multimillionaire based off of that pill. But I can't put that in a pill. It's up to you to reach out to the potential sources of support around you and to ask for that support. So, of course, you're going to have support from us here, from me, from the other fabulous volunteers that we have here, and other people that will be joining and helping out throughout the program. But really having your own personal support network is going to be important. So your spouse, another friend, another relative. Now, I gotta say, sometimes spouses and family members are sort of
Two-edged sword?
it can be a two-edged sword, right? If it works out good, it can be really good. But if it doesn't work out good, then it could be kind of like a nightmare, okay? So so I'll leave that to each one of you to sort that out, like what's going to work best for you. Here are some suggestions for this conversation. And even if your spouse or your close family members, even if you decide they're not necessarily going to be the one that's going to be your key support person, you should probably still have the conversation. And here's some specific talking points. Okay, so don't make big claims or big promises like, hey, this is it, I'm going to do this or that. Just acknowledge if in fact you have struggled and failed in the past. Just acknowledge, like, yeah, I know in the past I made some mistakes, I failed at some things that I tried. And by the way, you can have the same conversation with yourself too. Because sometimes any of you have that problem where yourself can be your greatest critic? Yeah, some of you know what I'm talking about. So just acknowledge, yeah, okay, I've tried, I've failed. It's still important to me, and I think this program might be different. I'm going to try the best, and I just would like for you to help encourage me and support me in it. Share the emotional part of your desire for better health. A lot of times that gets overlooked, and sometimes in relationships it's just like, well, you never da-da-da-da-da, or you didn't, and there's a struggle that goes on when your health isn't where it should be. And it's different for everybody, but it's also kind of the same. So share that part of like, I just have felt like a failure, or I feel like this is a burden, and I really, really want something different, and I really want to make this work. And just be honest with that. And also, ultimately, about how you envision that your better health can make the relationship better. Okay, so that's kind of most specific to couples, but it can be with other family members or close friends as well. Another thing to talk about is that some of the things we might ask you to do in this program might be considered a little strange or a little different. Okay. Now most of you, I'm guessing, are probably familiar with the general idea of what we're doing already. But for some people, asking them to go for a whole month without eating any animals is like, well, that's kind of strange. Like, why would you do that? Or, you know, not eating processed sugar. Like, all of a sudden you start meddling with people's like little habits, and if you have someone else, whether it's a spouse or a roommate, then they're starting to think like what, I can't have any sugar for a whole month. Like, what am I going to eat? Like, I like sugar. Like, and you're the one with the health problem. Why do I have to change my diet? Blah blah blah. Like, people actually say those kind of things. So just acknowledge, like, hey, some of this might be extreme. Some of the more extreme things we're going to ask you to do, like fasting, it's just for one day. Okay, we're not asking you to fast for a whole month or all the time. It's just for one day. The smoothie diet, like that's just for a few days. Okay, then we're going to transition you back to a more sustainable, healthy, long-term way of eating. So just acknowledge, yeah, there might, I have some challenges and I might need some kind of strong ways of dealing with that initially to get the momentum, to get the ball rolling, but it's not always going to be extreme. So ask for support. Tell her that you value her support and encouragement, or him, whatever gender is appropriate for your situation there. Invite them to come along on a journey with you. You're not demanding that somebody else has to eat the way that you're going to eat, but you can invite them. Say, hey, and in fact, we had one gentleman in the first class that we did here. His wife didn't come to the program. He came to the program because his blood sugar was a little high and he wanted to like lose a little weight, get in better shape. And in fact, it helped a lot with that. But then his wife was following along the program from home. Like she didn't come to it, but she followed the dietary things. She started exercising and doing this stuff. And she lost more weight than he did. And they both lost their arthritis pain as a little fringe benefit. This class is not about arthritis, but that's the side effects. Okay, it's better than the side effects from the other medicines you might take. So invite them into the journey with you, and sometimes if somebody's a little concerned about what you're doing, you might have to ask if there's any questions or anything you can do to reassure them about this process. And if any of you have someone in your life that's skeptical or something like that, I'm happy to talk with them if they want to talk to the director of the program. And then finally, consider planning a mutually enjoyable reward. So if you have someone and that's going to be your support person, or maybe somebody that just needs to be encouraged to not be a dead weight holding you back, like figure out like, hey, what's a goal, something that we can do together that would be enjoyable if I meet some of my goals in this program. And then that kind of helps to get them rooting for you if there's something in it for them specifically. And we'll talk more about motivation and all that. But that's sort of the general framework for some things to think about in the discussion. Any questions about that? Okay. Now we're going to talk about your kitchen. So I did say that we're really not asking you to change your diet yet, but we will be asking you to do some specific things starting on the 22nd. And ideally, you want to plan ahead for that. You don't wait until Sunday morning when you leave here and think, oh, now what am I going to do? So plan ahead. Nutrition is, as you probably know, one of the most important keys to success in building long-term health. And so having the highest quality food is going to be very important. And not only having high quality food, but the whole process of how does the food get from wherever it grows into your mouth, and kind of streamlining the process to set yourself up for having the highest quality food that will support your health. And so here's a few things that we recommend. A quality blender, and especially for the smoothie diet the first few days, but then even after that, a lot of people, when they go back to eating a more normal diet, they're going to have 1 or 2 meals a day and then a smoothie for their second or third meal, because that helps with continued weight loss. Oh, and another thing I didn't mention, when you're eating 100% fruits and vegetables, you get a lot of good nutrients that you don't get if you're eating more processed food. There's fruits and vegetables are high in antioxidants, phytonutrients, anti-cancer chemicals, and vitamins and minerals and all that stuff. So a blender is really important. I recommend the Vitamix blenders. They're the best as far as I can tell. There are some others that are passable, but they're not even in the same league. I even got one of those Ninja ones. Some of you heard about the Ninjas. We got it because, well, my Vitamix is waiting to be repaired. And my wife was at Goodwill and she saw a Ninja for, I think, 10 bucks or something. So she bought it and brought it home. And we thought, oh, this is cool. We saw the advertisements and we tried it out and we're like, oh. I mean, it kind of works, but Vitamix, if you can afford it, okay? Any kind of blenders, like you can do most of the things, you can make it work, but like the little $15 blenders from Walmart, I've burned those things up in like one day if you're actually using them. So a good blender, a crock pot or slow cooker. Now the things have changed a little bit on this. Since I first did this program, they come out with a thing called the Instant Pot, which works pretty well as a slow cooker as well as a pressure cooker. So if you had to get just two things, probably Vitamix and an Instant Pot, you'd be pretty well set. But there are some things a slow cooker works really good for, and sometimes, like in our house, oftentimes there's more than one thing cooking at a time, and so a slow cooker is good for some things and then the Instant Pot for other things. So having both of those available is not a bad idea. Other things you might consider, a general food processor, a coffee grinder, not for grinding coffee, but for grinding nuts and seeds. And so just having one of those little things on your kitchen counter makes it easy. You can throw some flax seeds or some nuts in there, blend that for just a couple of seconds, and then that goes into all sorts of things. So that's a good thing to have. A bread mixer, or you can just knead the bread by hand the old-fashioned way. But yeah, I've seen some people going like, So, and a grain mill. So those are like way down the list. They're good things to have, but really, really the two things are the blender and the Instant Pot or slow cooker or both. I strongly recommend that you get those. And then food storage containers, probably everybody has those already, but if you don't have some, look into getting some. And then the food. So we're going to be asking you to move to a whole food plant-based diet exclusively or almost exclusively for at least the first month. So all the processed junk that you have, eat it up before the 21st or get rid of it somehow, like so that you're gonna go on your fast and then that Sunday morning you're not gonna eat any of that stuff anymore. So it needs to be out of your house. So give it away.
Have a game night for the youth.
Have a youth game night and feed them all the frozen pizzas out of your freezer, or your TV dinners, or whatever it may be, the ice cream, all this stuff. Like, get it out of your house so it's not even there, and make sure that you stock up on actual food. So I recommend, at least for the first several days, you're going to be looking at frozen fruits and vegetables as well as fresh fruits and vegetables. Those are the ingredients for your smoothies. And then as we move into a more normal way of eating, you're going to be looking at other things, so whole grains, legumes, and nuts. So you want to stock your pantry with those sort of basic ingredients. And we'll be talking a lot about food throughout this whole program, so we're not going to go into more detail tonight. I'm just telling you, like, plan a little bit ahead so that when that time comes, you have those things there, and you're also less tempted by the other stuff that really is not so great for you. Okay, I'm going to skip this one for a second. I'm going to go to the letter to your provider. You see that's the last page there. If you do have a doctor that's especially prescribing diabetic medicine or blood pressure medicine, it really would be a good idea that you let them know what's going on and have that discussion. And even if you don't, we still would like to get those labs. So you can take this letter to your doctor. I have my cell phone number on there, so they can call me directly if they have any questions, and that would be helpful. Okay, so now a word about the apps, and then we'll turn you loose to do some evaluations here and get things set up. The first one, these apps are free. If you have the first one, Fat Secret, they have both an Android and an iPhone version of the app. So it's called Fat Secret. I did not name it. It seems a little odd. I don't know. Like, okay, it's not a secret. If you're overweight, like, people know, you're not hiding it, everybody knows. Maybe if you're trying to eat better, is that the secret? Like, oh, I'm gonna eat better and I'll lose weight and keep that a secret? I don't know, I'm not sure why they named it that, but it's a good app, okay? Put the app on your phone and start tracking everything that you eat. And I'm gonna tell you, the first several days is gonna be a pain. Especially if you've never used this kind of app before. It's a pain because you got to get on there. And so here it is. And a couple of the people have the apps on their phone, so they'll come around and help you if you need help. But here we go. So there's what it looks like when you sign in. And then if you go to diary, and it will offer you a subscription service. Don't pay for it or anything. Okay, we're helping you here. You don't need to sign into one of their coaching things. So there you go. You have breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. And so when you eat breakfast, you just click on breakfast, and then you can search for foods. You can pick from the things that you've recently eaten in the last couple of weeks, which if you're just using the app for the first time, there's not going to be anything there. Or you can scan stuff, like, check this out. May I?
No.
We'll see if this works. I can use my phone, my barcode scanner on my phone, and it says, Kirkland Signature Bottled Water, 1 bottle, 0 calories. Yay, all right. So you can do that with most foods that have a barcode on them. So if you're eating breakfast cereal, or you're eating, you know, anything out of a box or a bag that has a barcode on it, you can do that. If you're eating stuff that's, well, even like this morning for breakfast, I had cornmeal, like whole grain cornmeal, and that usually comes in a bag or a thing with the barcode. You can scan that in there, and then you just have to put down how much you ate, and then save that. So it takes a little effort the first several days, but usually after the first week, like, we eat kind of the same sort of things pretty repetitively, and so it's pretty easy just to click, click, click on the things that you ate already, and there you are. So if you can work on that, that would be great. The next one is Fit Notes app, and that one, you see, well, you have the little icon there. So this first one is for Android, and the bottom one is for iPhone, iOS. And it looks kind of like that. And once I click on it, it comes up for today, and then you want to start a new workout, and then it has a whole list of different exercises that you can log there, and you can add new exercises as well. So since we haven't started our workout program, there's not going to be a whole lot for you to do there unless you're already on a workout program, and it could be just walking. So you could have here, like, have cardio, and somewhere down here I have walk. There we go. And so I can put down the distance and the time that I walked. And if I have an activity tracker, it'll track that for me. So you might not need to track it in here, but it's nice to have it on here because this keeps a record, and you can go back and look and see. So how many push-ups did you do? what was your maximum push-ups? Well, if it's 2 now and at the end of the program it's 25 or whatever, it logs that for you so you can follow along and see your change over time, which is kind of nice. And then sometimes it's helpful for things where maybe you don't do the same workout for a long period of time and you don't remember what you did before. Like, how much weight should I do for this specific thing? So you can look back and say, oh, I did that much. I'll try just a little bit more, but not a lot more, because you don't want to hurt yourself, right? So having a record allows you to make those smaller incremental changes that are safer and more sustainable. Any questions on that?
Is that the Fit Notes to Gym for iOS? Is it the gym?
Okay, so you're searching.
Is it that
Yep,
one?
that's the one.
That one?
Yep,
Oh.
I think so. I think so. Okay. Any other questions about the apps? Did you have a?
For the Fit Notes, it's saying 12 free workouts remaining. Does that mean
Oh,
that we have to pay for the?
is that the iPhone?
Yeah.
That sounds like that's what it means.
I mean, I looked at the purchase options and you can pay for a monthly subscription for $2. So
$2 a
doesn't-
month?
Yeah, $2 a month and
iPhones are just
$15 for a
expensive.
year.
Yeah. So I think it's probably worth it, even if you have to pay $2 a month for that. I got the one on Android is free, and then they have a paid version that gives you more things that you can do, and I think I paid $6 for it, but that's like a one-time thing, and now I get all the updates forever for free. So, but
Switch to Android.
I'm gonna, yeah, I was gonna say I'm trying not to turn this into a flame war, but yeah, if you get, sometimes you have to pay for your choices. Anyway, that's just one option. I think it's the best option, at least on Android. On iPhone, I think it's still probably one of the best options. I don't have an iPhone, so I haven't explored all of those. But if you find a better one, let me know. Okay, so I think that's pretty much what I have to say for today. We'll have a little chance for you guys to ask questions. I'll try to answer, and then we'll turn you loose to do some measurements and anything else. So yes, Barbara.
Is this where we'll meet each time?
Yes. So the plan will be, we'll meet here, we'll weigh in each time on the fancy scales, and then we'll exercise either here, or we might go outside, or sometimes we walk the hallways, depending on, it's a different exercise each time, so it's not the same every time. And so some of them are like weightlifting things we'll just do right here, and then some of them are more walking things, so we'll do out there and combinations. But we'll meet here, and then we'll eat. Usually we'll bring the food in here and have you sit here at the tables and eat, and then once you get settled with your food, then the person giving the lecture will be talking while you're eating. But it'll be here unless we announce otherwise. Yes. Now don't cover up your name tag. Mary Ann?
Yes.
Okay, yes, what's your question?
My doctor is in Texas.
Okay.
Is there a doctor that you can recommend in this area? Do you have a practice?
I do. It's quite limited. I'm mainly focused right now trying to get the church practice up and going, because the church is actually starting a medical practice. We're not there yet, but we're working on it. So maybe you talk to me afterwards about that, or how do you, anyway, we'll talk afterwards.
And mine's in Missouri, so same problem.
What's with you people?
We're volunteers at Battle Creek. Battle Creek does not have an Adventist physician.
Isn't that a shame?
It's horrible. Yeah,
Isn't that a shame? Well, we're going to have to change that, but
that's right.
for right now, I'm working here in Berrien Springs. So anyway, wow, I'll ask you a few more questions later then.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, so we'll turn you loose. I think Nazrana or Amy will be running the scales. We have a couple of cloth tapes over here. Roberto is willing to help out. They're not wearing name tags, so you guys are going to have to be chastised. One of those people is Roberto, one of them is Laurel, and Vicky's not wearing a name tag either, but Sonia has a name tag on. So, okay, so that's it. Oh, this right here, in case you want to, I didn't print enough of these for everybody. You can find these all over the internet. But you can look on here and find where you are, and it gives you an idea of where you are. You can get a rough idea of where maybe you should be. And we'll talk more about this later. But if you gave them your height and they weigh you, then it should spit out the number for the BMI, or you can just look it up on the graph. So, okay? All right.